Hello, listeners, and welcome to Friends of the Force, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, Brad Whipple, and this is our series from a certain point of view in which we interview the fans and creators within the Star Wars community. So on today's show, we have three guests who were recently working over at the Super Yaki website. If you're not familiar with Super Yaki, they are an online movie apparel store where they sell t-shirts, sweatshirts, bottles, stickers, accessories, all sorts of fun stuff. And Jason, Skylar, and Andrew all worked together for the Space Wizards 2 Star Wars merchandise, which launched back in August and has just recently restocked on Friday with some leftovers. So I wanted to have them on the show to learn more about what Star Wars means to them. So without further ado, let's jump right over to our discussion.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
Joining me on the podcast today, we have a Super Yaki-filled episode with the creators behind the recent Space Wizards lineup, and I'm super excited to be chatting with them about all things Star Wars today on the show. So first up on the show, we have Andrew Ortiz, the founder and owner of Super Yaki. Andrew, how is it going?
Hi, it's going well. Thanks for having us.
Happy to have you. And next up, we have Jason Kauzlarich, who is an art director, and he's also the producer of Talking Bay 94. Jason, how's it going?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Fantastic. Super happy to have you on. And last but certainly not least, we have Skylar Verduzco, who is an illustrator, and you probably recognize her name from a couple recent things you've been doing, Skylar, for Super Yaki. You did stuff for both Space Wizards and the recent Halloween rollout, which was really exciting to see your art back on there. So very exciting to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, before I get started and kind of get into the nitty gritty of Star Wars and the Space Wizards, I'd like to go around just to kind of get a little bit of background in each of you for our listeners and kind of where you fall into like your own industries as well as Star Wars fans as well, and kind of how Star Wars possibly influenced your line of work that you're in. So, Andrew, I'd love to start with you with Super Yaki. How did that really come about for you to start that business? And I know originally you weren't doing it full time, and most recently this year you kind of transitioned into that full time role for the company.
Yeah, it's a boring story. It's not very exciting. I was working a different job. I actually, it's funny, the job I had before I decided that I want to start this thing, I was actually working for the Alamo Draft House, and we were coming right off of the tail end of the Force Awakens release, which was like the craziest weekend that our theaters had ever seen. And so I was running around frantically from theater to theater, and I was just completely spent. I was exhausted all the time. I felt like I was never at home. I was flying from Houston to Lubbock constantly, and I kind of listened to my inner voice, and it said, if you're gonna burn yourself out, at least do it for yourself. And so, I kind of planted the seed, and I started the shop, and I had a lot of stuff I wanted to do, but I kind of started off real slow, and I slowly grew it into a nice, sustainable business. And here we are now, getting the opportunity to be here and work with some really cool people. It's exciting. I don't know how else to put it. It's just a lot of work that I've put into it, and a lot of restless nights. But as far as what Star Wars means to me, I mean, it ties into the shop in itself, in that like I just really like to watch movies, and I wanted to find a way that I could incorporate that into a paycheck where I kind of did it on my own terms. And Star Wars, I mean, I'm sure anyone listening has a similar story, but Star Wars is just like so embedded into almost every memory that I've had since I was a little kid. It's just a huge looming presence over everything, from watching the original movies as a kid in Spanish, at my grandparents' house, or staying up super late to watch Phantom Menace at midnight with my dad, which was like the first midnight screening that I ever gone to being kind of the catalyst for this whole shop, after getting burnt out on Force Awakens weekend. It's just kind of always been there, right? You can never go too far without Star Wars being a part of my life, at least. So yeah, I mean, it's great. I love it. And I'm a Star Wars fan, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I feel like the Force Awakens was such a wild time for so many people. It was probably like, I don't think anything can top that launch of that film, because it was just like 10 years just waiting for like an explosion of fandom to happen. And it
Yeah.
just completely erupted once it was finally out. It was insane. Skylar, so you're an illustrator and you've done a ton of work on your website. You have, different illustrations, patterns. You have some really cool character designs, and one of my favorites that you've done on here is the Golden Compass project,
you.
which I love his Dark Materials. I'm really excited for season 2 to come back very soon. But what's your background with in illustration, and when did you decide to make that part of your life?
I think I started taking my art seriously around middle school, when I realized like, oh, this is the one thing that's absolutely always clicking for me. And in high school, I made sure to take like lots of stuff, like lots of art classes, and I decided to pursue going to college, an art college, to get an illustration career, and get an illustration major. And I think a large reason for it is just the amount of art I've consumed in media through like books, movies, TV shows. Like, art is everywhere, and I just really love it, and I really like creating it as well.
Is there a specific piece that you've really enjoyed creating in your time as an illustrator, something that stuck with you, or maybe kind of had you realize like, wow, this is something I can really take even further, and I'm really good at this, like that you kind of have that moment of like eureka almost?
I think, I wouldn't say necessarily one piece, but last year I did a very wild task of doing 31 illustrations for October, all horror based, and all based off of different horror movies. And I like did that all in 31 days.
Wow.
And after that, I just sort of sat down and was like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. It really sort of gave attention to my art too as well. Some people noticed it because the thing is usually called Inktober, but I did a variation of it. And it's really hard for a lot of people to actually stick through those 31 days. So it gained a little popularity because of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you just immediately, if you pull up your Twitter and other social media on your website, it's just a lot of very like colorful things, which I really like. It really sticks out, And I think you have a very unique style to your art. So, Jason, so you're involved with Talking Bay 94, which is a good friend of the show. I love Brandon. And I was really excited to see him collaborate with Super Yaki and create all these things. But what's your background as an art director, and eventually, meeting Brandon and getting involved with him even, and some of the work that you've even done at Fangoria in the past?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been, at school for design, and I've been in advertising for about 12 years now. And so many years ago, about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Brandon started working with me at an agency, and we both realized, oh, we both really like Star Wars. Oh, we both really like Mondo posters, and we would talk about that all the time at work, and try and do Mondo drops during the day, and then we ended up getting a gig working for one of our clients, going to San Diego Comic-Con. And we were just doing fun stuff there. And out of that, we kind of like, let's start a little hobby. And we started a site called Super Kaiju, where we just covered local, nerd fan stuff, like local conventions. We'd drive down to Austin, check out Mondo stuff at South by if it was there, comic shops and stuff, around town. And then he's like, I kind of want to start interviewing some of these Star Wars guests at these local conventions. And then from that, it kind of spawned into the podcast that he created, and that I help, with the graphic side of it, and, some of the video stuff. So that's how that all kind of got started. And we've been, doing it for a few years now. And Super Kaiju was going, it was doing pretty good and locally. And Fangoria moved into Dallas for the time he was here, and Brandon just randomly emailed the owner. It's like, hey, we'd like to talk to you. And going back and forth, we eventually worked there for about a year and a half. And that was a crazy time. We got to do a lot of cool stuff, really busy. I ended up getting 3 illustrations in the magazine, which, telling childhood Jason that, would have never believed it. And so that was pretty cool. And yeah, now we're still working together at a new agency. Yeah, it's been fun doing all the talking based stuff, and we got to do the partnership with Super Yaki, and I got to work on those illustrations and designs for shirts, which was a lot of fun. And as far as Star Wars, I think like most of us, we watched it as a kid growing up. My mom got me the VHS box set, and we had a blizzard one year, and I just would watch them on a loop because I couldn't go outside at night because it was snowing and ice. And from there, other sci-fi movies and all like the designs on like displays, especially Star Wars, there's so many of them, that really helped, like for visually like stuff I liked. And then from like Star Wars posters to all the other movie poster art, like that really, I gravitated towards that kind of stuff. And so when I got to work at Fangoria, it was like, oh, here's like, I finally get to use all these things I like and do it for work, which is really cool. I get to do it occasionally in advertising, but you kind of have to stick to brand style guides.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Star Wars is, it's great to hear all of your guys' stories and kind of how you got to where you are today. And I think one thing that really is evident is you're very passionate about the stuff that you do. And I think especially in this day and age, it's a lot easier to share like what you love and what your creative side looks like with stuff like Twitter and Instagram, and it's much easier to get yourself out there just from an artist perspective. And feel free for any one of you to kind of chime in. And how do you feel like that has evolved over the years in terms of being creative and like producing things and trying to get them out into the world and have people be interested in them? And like, what are some of the challenges that you run up against, but also like what are some of the rewarding aspects of it?
I think the one thing I've noticed as a big change compared to like what I've been told from older illustrators versus now is that very much now, like somebody could just be on Twitter and see your art and give you an opportunity just like that. Well, like I don't think that was possible without social media, like at all. Like I guess one could see somebody at a gallery or something like that. But most of my opportunities have been from just somebody seeing my art on social media, which is not at all what they prepare you for in school. They prepare you for the traditional, like, submitting portfolios, emailing art directors, going through all of that. But it just can happen that easily now, which is both like very rewarding, but also it's very scary too, that so many people could be seeing your art at once.
Yeah, absolutely. It's accessible and you don't have to like really necessarily like know anybody. A lot of times it's like who you know or what you know, but it's really just you can kind of fully invest yourself in what you enjoy and the work shows for itself. And I think that's the great thing about social media, and it brings people together, and it brought all of you guys together for Space Wizards. But Jason and Andrew, do you guys have any other thoughts on that in terms of kind of your experiences? And I know Andrew, especially, running your own business, and I'm sure there are a lot of other websites out there, but in terms of like, what how Super Yaki tries to differentiate itself and have like such a unique style.
To be honest, I'm it's hard to say what our secret to success has been, just because I'm kind of shocked that we've gotten this far, that I'm able to do this full time, and that we continue to make stuff. I don't know what to credit that success to. And I don't know if that's just, false modesty or anything, but I would, agree with Skylar in that it really, it being social media, Twitter, Instagram, not Facebook, but, everything else, it's made it so much easier to reach a community, right? And to reach a very niche part of your interests. And I guess case in point, with something as broad as Star Wars, obviously there's fans all over the place, but one story that I guess to me is the just really encapsulates why this was such a great working relationship, was that when I contacted everyone assembling the team, as you will, much like George Clooney in Ocean's 11. When I was reaching out to everyone and coming up with ideas, I found it remarkable that each one of us pitched a Duel of the Fates themed idea independent of one another, right? And that's the moment that I knew that, like, all right, this is gonna, I don't know if this is gonna sell or not, but I know that this is gonna be fun because we're all, really into the same dumb parts of this, fandom. And I guess that's been the secret to the success of Super Yaki. I mean, that's the secret right there, is that there's no subject too dumb to pursue.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of like finding niche communities, right? Because you can try to appeal to everybody, right? But that's not ever really going to work in some ways, But to really find like certain subsects of, especially like the Star Wars community, who are going to look at a Jar Jar is the key to everything shirt and like be like, I have to buy 10 of those. But like other people might be revolted by that because they just hate Jar Jar. But you find those people that love Jar Jar or that love Episode 1 or Duel of the Fates because the prequels are great. I'm convinced the prequel renaissance is happening and we're in the full thick of it right now. But you're so right. And I think that's kind of the beauty of creation is you don't necessarily have to please everybody, but if you can just find that one section of people that really support the work you do, and that's like the most rewarding thing possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I credit to Jason for coming up with like so many good concepts and ideas, and all of it, I mean, across the board translated into success. And it's crazy because on some of them, we would email back and forth and we would say, this might be really dumb. Who knows? Let's just go for it and see how it lands. And sure enough, there's people out there within the community who are like, this is my kind of dumb. I love this. I appreciate this. And I'm glad that I'm being seen out there. So for the Jar Jar Hive, I mean, we see you, we are you, we're here, we exist. So thank you, Jason, for that.
Yeah, I mean, I was wearing the Jar Jar shirt and part of town. I was just like, walking around, and some guy that I didn't look like a nerd or anything, just a normal guy, just saw the Jar Jar shirt. It's like, hell yeah, that's awesome. I was like, great. So, it's like, going back to, there are like these small online communities that are very niche. And, but I think a lot of people grew up with the prequels. I mean, I watched the originals first on VHS, and then, I went to a midnight screening with my mom to watch Phantom Menace. Like you, that was my first midnight screening. And my mom knew I wanted to see it, and she liked Star Wars. She got me into it, and then now it's just, I think a lot of people grew up with them and didn't realize, like, oh yeah, these were a part of my childhood, and not everyone likes Jar Jar or the prequels, but it's like, oh no, that they were fun movies, and it's okay to celebrate that. And I think you can find that online through all these different groups, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, and then Facebook, like they have their own micro groups that are dedicated to certain subjects, whether it's Star Wars or I'm in different poster groups, some that are Mondo specific, some that are horror movie poster specific. Mm-hmm. And it's just fun to be in those. And we used to have like forums, but now I think it's even more streamlined. You can just go right to it with the search. And it's, it's fun to interact with those communities and get friends out of, friends that I would normally never have talked to. And now it's like, okay, yeah, you live up in Seattle, but we can talk about the same common thing. And, oh, we're going to meet up at a convention and say hi to each other, and which is very cool to do.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to get everybody's opinion. I just thought of this, but all of us love movies. That's, kind of why we're here. But would you guys consider the prequels as like almost like a cult, has like a cult following? Like, would you consider it a cult classic? Because for so long, the prequels, I feel like were bashed unfairly, by the way. But once the sequel trilogy came out, it almost had this attitude of, okay, well, that's no longer the only Star Wars we have left anymore. So there's not as much expectation or as much pressure on them for like performance or for, excellent writing or whatnot. But it almost kind of has had this resurgence. And even with like the 20th anniversary of Phantom Menace happening last year at Celebration and seeing Ahmed Best on stage, who I think knows about the shirt as well. Would you guys consider, from your definition of cult following or cult movie, would the prequels fit into that? And how have you kind of seen the reception to those films kind of change over time?
I mean, I think so, definitely. Phantom Menace is, since Celebration, and maybe it's just because I've weeded out the more toxic communities and like just don't acknowledge them or look at them. Where, you know, I went to Celebration. That was my first time going to one of those for Star Wars, and it was like great because everyone there was positive. There was no negativity, and that's not always the case in, you know, fandoms. And so that, and now it's just like, okay, I'll just go to the groups that are, you know, positive about it all. And I think there are a lot of people who did grow up with the prequels that are like, oh yeah, you know what, Phantom Menace pretty rad, Jar Jar Binks not that bad, he's fun. And like, and my, you know, my sister, she has kids now and they like Jar Jar. It's just, you know, it's what you grew up with.
Yeah.
Episode 2, you know, there still has its ups and downs, but there's still a lot of things to like about it. It's the romantic movie out of the Star Wars universe. So.
Yeah. Skylar, Andrew, do you have anything to add on the prequels and kind of how they've changed over time and been received?
So when I was 2 years old, the Phantom Menace came out, and my parents got episode 1 and 2 on DVD, and I remember when episode 3 came out, it was PG-13. The first Star Wars movie that was PG-13. And I couldn't go see it.
It's a big deal.
Because I was like 8. And the buzz among kids in elementary school of the kids who got to see the PG-13 Star Wars episode 3 and the kids who couldn't, it was just so, like, everyone had so much joy and reception towards the prequels as children. And I think I would say it's probably considered to be a cult classic among the Star Wars movies. But everyone I know who I grew up with just like holds it so dearly and loves them so much. Like, I don't know anyone who was ever negative towards them as a kid, and even now.
Yeah, if I could just, yeah, it's a big question to ask. You know, I think inherently within deep in every fiber of my being, I don't believe that there's any thing as a bad movie per se. I definitely think that there's movies that aren't for you. That you can, you know, there's no shame in saying, hey, that wasn't for me, I didn't really enjoy it. And I think the thing with the prequels was that so much of the conversation was dictated by, you know, people who were kind of older and were much more in tune with like the original movies. And so that kind of dictated the conversation a lot of the way afterwards. And it wasn't until, you know, our generation who actually grew up with them, we were the intended target audience for these movies, were we able to really kind of take control of the conversation, which we're doing right now, you know, as adults, and saying like, hey, you know what, I actually kind of like these movies, and they were pretty fun, and I have really fond memories of these movies. And I know for me, you know, there's definitely parts about them that maybe don't hold up super well in comparison to some of the other movies, but you know, I know how I feel about them, and it's that I enjoy them immensely for what they are and what they were trying to achieve. So I'm just glad that there is this, you know, renaissance, and we don't have to live in the shadows anymore, you know, afraid of public humiliation for saying, you know what, I kind of like Phantom Menace, and you know what, that pod racing scene was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I think once people, like, I know, because I watched that and I was middle school, I think, when the first one came out, and then the next 2 after that in high school. And you know, when I first saw it, and I came home, I went to school the next morning on a Friday, and the people who were able to see her that next Monday, like all the kids, like loved it. And it wasn't until like, I think online, like you know, like you said, slightly older generation, like this isn't my Star Wars or whatever the hell they're saying. And, you know, and it kind of seeped in, I think, to a lot of people, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't like these movies. But then, you know, as you get older and you start hanging around, you know, other people that, you know, kind of like the same stuff you like, and then, you know, go to these conventions, you know, it's like, oh, it's okay to like this stuff. It's totally fine. It's fun. In the end, these are fun movies. Don't think too deep about it. I mean, there's obviously a lot of cool stuff you can pull from Star Wars, but they are all fun movies.
Yeah, well said.
And I think the unique thing about Star Wars is there's an entry point for everybody, right? So I think, Andrew, you kind of hit the nail on the head in saying that now those kids that grew up with the prequels are adults, so we kind of have a larger share of the pie at the table. Like, we can now lend our voice, and it's a little louder than when we were kids, and it actually means something and carries some weight, because Like we have like tastes now, and we can have opinions. And I think one interesting quote that came up recently was from Ewan McGregor, actually, and he acknowledged that basically he thought nobody liked the films when they first came out, and he was saying that now it's so bizarre to him that people actually like those films and they grew up on those films, and he's like, are you kidding? Like, and I think that is like so heartbreaking, but it's also like so heartwarming at the same time for him to now be coming back into the Star Wars galaxy, but also realizing like, hey, we never left like your Obi-Wan. We never left the prequels. The prequels have always stayed with us, and they're here, and they're in a revival phase right now. And there's just so much Star Wars too. So I think you can like things unabashedly, publicly, and not really be made fun of for that. And I think that's why the Star Wars community is growing, and you get these smaller subgroups that can kind of stay in their bubble and enjoy that bubble. And that's the wonderful thing.
Listen, I'll say it. I'll be the first to say it. We're trailblazers. You know, we really paved the way for Ewan McGregor returning to this role. It's because of me. It's because of us. You know, we're the ones who went out there valiantly day after day and said, you know what, these movies are pretty good. Think about them a little bit more. Go reassess them a little bit. Go enjoy them. And you know what? I'd like to think that you know, Ewan probably saw this release and thought, these kids aren't so bad. You know, maybe I will go back.
Yeah. I'm convinced he saw that Phantom Menace anniversary panel last year at Celebration. And then over the summer, he was like, you know, maybe I should do that Obi-Wan thing again. And it's crazy to think that like this week, he walked into the Mandalorian studio and saw all of his old beige cloaks hanging on the racks and ready to go. And I feel like I'm back in 2005. And that's really exciting because 2005 was a great year. Let's be honest. Like Batman Begins, Charlie and Chocolate Factory, it was a great time. I want to talk about the designs you guys chose for Super Yaki and the Space Wizard lineup. So, Skylar, I want to talk to you first about the one and only Diego Luna. So, yes. Rogue One, I think, is another example of not necessarily a cult classic, but something that was the first anthology film for Star Wars. It didn't really fall into the episodic storyline, and that kind of was really unique because not everybody loved it. But the people that really do love it are just so passionate about it. I've never seen like such a rabid fan base over Rogue or anything else as Rogue One, because people just like will die on a hill for it, basically. And especially Diego Luna.
One of those people.
I'm with you.
I will die on the Rogue One hill.
And another person that's coming back is Diego Luna as Cassian. We're seeing all these revivals of these sort of projects that people really attach themselves to and are so vocal about. But what does Rogue One mean to you? What was your experience like for seeing that film in theaters, whether you saw it in theaters or after? And why did Diego Luna feel like the right choice for one of your designs?
I saw Rogue One when it came out, like the night of. Theaters are chaotic now. There's no really midnight screenings anymore. We went to like a 9:00 screening, and it was jam-packed. You know, we hardly made it through concessions in time to see the start of the movie. Like we got our food, got our seats, one trailer played, and then it started, which was the closest call I've ever had to missing the start of a movie. And I fell in love with all of the characters, which was very strange for me, where like I just wanted to know so much more about every single one of the main cast in Rogue One. It like really entranced me like no other of the Star Wars movies, and I hold it so dear to my heart. And I'll love them forever. And it makes me so happy that like Cassian's getting like his own separate thing, and Diego Luna just like means so much to me as a Mexican American, and seeing like him in a Star Wars movie, like with his accent, just like doing his thing, it just like really warms my whole heart. And I had to pay tribute to that with this shirt because he was just so perfect.
I love that it's just Diego Luna. That's it. You know, and he speaks for himself, and it's crazy to think that filming for that series, I think, starts like next week or in a week and a half. So yeah. I mean, it's right around the corner. We're probably going to get that before the Kenobi series. And I'm like ready for some more Diego Luna because he's just such a bright addition to the Star Wars universe. But Jason and Andrew, what are your thoughts on Rogue One and kind of where does it fall in your Star Wars interests?
I mean, I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it, and then Brandon and I went and watched it immediately again that same night. I mean, it's hard to rank it, above the original trilogy, but it falls somewhere below that. But yeah, I mean, it's the first time I think we actually see like war in a Star Wars movie, like from like the non-Jedi aspect of the whole storyline. Um, just different shots and a little bit grittier, like just seeing like the stormtrooper like at the very beginning, just kind of like hunched over, like worn out with the dirt all over his mask, just stuff you never saw. And I thought it was a nice new take on Star Wars. I mean, I have a group of friends that aren't really in the same like nerd realm as I am, and that was the one they're like, okay, this is a Star Wars I can get behind, and they like that a lot. And I really don't know a lot of people who are negative about it. I know a lot of people who say this is now their favorite Star Wars. So yeah, I dig it a lot. And Diego Luna is great, and then he was also in the what's the VR where you put on the whole bodysuit thing and you kind of go through the
Oh,
void.
yes.
He's like the little intro to that. Cool. So yeah, I am very excited for the show.
I don't think a lot of people hate Rogue One, but there's a certain subsect of people I think that like to kind of hate on it because it's like almost against the grain, which happens with a lot of things in general. But I'm just like, you guys are just jealous that we're having so much fun loving Rogue One, and it's okay. You can admit it. Andrew, what are your thoughts on Rogue One and Diego Luna as, in my opinion, one of the biggest Star Wars icons of our time?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love it. But for me, most movies I watch, I either love or I think they're pretty good. So you shouldn't take my word for it as far as the review goes. I will reiterate what Skylar said. I think it was even, how long ago did it come out? 3-4 years ago? Something
4
like that,
years,
right?
yeah. 4 years
4 years ago.
in a couple
Yeah.
months.
Even as someone who was in their late 20s, going to see that movie, and I know like Diego Luna is in the movie, and I know he's a Mexican man representing me on screen, right? In a perspective that's never been shown before. And I know all this going in, but I still couldn't help but like tear up, that small part of me who's just like really excited to see someone who sounds and looks and has, no, I shouldn't say looks. I do not look anything like Diego Luna. That's probably, I don't want to misinterpret anybody, but just to see that person on screen with that accent really did mean a lot to me. I'm a firm believer that representation does matter on screen and off screen, and it's really important to have a perspective behind the scenes as well. But gosh, if it wasn't just so exciting to see it on screen, if only for just one movie out of the several that they made. And so, yeah, I'm a huge Rogue One fan.
Yeah. Rogue One was one of the most diverse. I think it was the most diverse film of any Star Wars or any project really, because it just put so much representation on screen. I mean, you had Felicity Jones as the lead character, and then Pedro, and then Donnie Yen. I mean, you had such a stacked cast. And I think that's why the film worked, because it wasn't just kind of the cookie cutter Star Wars that we were used to. It was really taking some new leaps in that direction. And now you see something like The Mandalorian, especially too, who's doing more of that even behind the scenes with some new creators. And that is really exciting as well. Which, by the way, like Diego Luna and Pedro Pascal are like two guys I just love so much. And I'm so happy they're involved in Star Wars. It's just like amazing.
Yeah. I will add that it not only was it great to see them on screen, but so often in these big tentpole movies, do we see people of color just kind of shoehorned into the plot, and people kind of expect a pat on the back just for having them included in there. But it gave these characters something to do, and it built them out, and it gave them purpose in these movies, not just in service of white leads, right? And so that was what really meant a lot to me. Is just seeing these people take this space that ordinarily wasn't really available to them and to us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd like to move on to another kind of theme amongst the Space Wizards lineup. So music is definitely at the core of Star Wars. John Williams is like the maestro. I think he'll probably go down as like one of the greatest of all time, even like next to Beethoven. Like he will be studied in like 300 years from now, and they'll be like, yeah, John Williams, like he was the shit. And it's going to be great. And we have lived in that time, which is like insane to think about. And now you have, Ludwig Göransson and John Powell and just so many people adding their voice to the musical sheet. But so Skylar, you have the John Williams shirt, and Jason, you designed the Duel of the Fates. Spent 11 days on TRL, and honestly, like Duel of the Fates is just like one of the greatest pieces of Star Wars music ever written. But Star Wars wouldn't be Star Wars without its music, and it's kind of its own character. It evolves, it speaks to us in certain ways that the characters can't, and dialogue can't, and visual effects can't. It's really its own mythology in a way. But what has been the impact of Star Wars music on each of you, and like, why did you have to pay respects to the man himself and really acknowledge that part of this amazing franchise?
I mean, for the TRL one, just going back even before that, my first, before CDs, my first cassettes were, like, it was the Jurassic Park score, and then, like, just a compilation of John Williams scores, like the themes, or just other famous movie theme or scores and themes and stuff like that. And then I started getting CDs, and those, I was just getting movie scores, a lot of John Williams, like I think most of them were. And then I didn't watch a lot of MTV, but then when I heard they're going to do a Star Wars thing on there, I'm going to check it out. And then they kept playing it every day. And so I would run home from school to make sure I could see Star Wars on MTV, the channel that all the cool kids in school are watching. And now I get to join in on that. And there's John Williams, and then there's, like, some shots from the movie before it came out. It was just cool stuff. And, it was fun. And then, since then, all the other, like, most of my vinyl collection is just movie scores. I have like some Nine Inch Nails in there, but the rest of it, it's, there's the John Williams stuff, and then all other kinds of movies. And so yeah, I just love all of it. And what John Williams has done with not just Star Wars, but all the other, like, Spielberg movies, it enriches everything that you're watching.
Yeah, 1999. What a year, and what a year for Star Wars music. But Skylar, what does John Williams mean to you? And I love your shirt. Have you thanked John Williams today? I don't think we can ever thank him truly enough for what he's done to us. He's raised the bar for composers in the industry of what a score can sound like and how it can evoke so many emotions.
I don't think there's a single person, maybe babies, but like a single person alive who like hasn't been impacted deeply by John Williams, whether they know it or not. Like, maybe not everybody knows like scores or obsessed with like, oh, who composed this movie? Did they compose this one too? John Williams is just like, his talent has seeped into every single part of existence in the world. And Duel of Fates is one of my favorite things that he's seeped into this world. It just, no other Star Wars like song like slaps that hard. Like, it just goes for it. Every time I watch that scene, I get goosebumps. Like, it's hard for a movie to give me goosebumps, like, just from seeing a scene out of context. But every time I pull up the YouTube clip, I'm getting goosebumps. And I cannot be grateful enough for John Williams and everything he's done. So I was really inspired by that, and thank him every single day. He's impacted us all in so many ways. Yeah.
Makes me want to build like a John Williams shrine in my bedroom and just like every morning get up and go over to it and like, thank you, John Williams. Thank you so much. He deserves all of our love. And for him to like come back for the sequel trilogy, especially, and see some of the things that he created for that was really exciting. I know that was the big question on so many people's minds when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, was like, is John Williams coming back?
I'm so glad he did. Like, in each trilogy, I would say like my 3 favorite John Williams Star Wars scores, there's one in each one. And I love Rey's theme. It is so beautiful. Like, it's just so like gentle and light and airy. And like, I cannot be more grateful for that either.
Mm-hmm. I think that was one of the driving things that made him want to come back, because I think he heard about the character of Rey and was like, I want to make her theme, so I'm coming back. Because I don't think he wanted anybody else to have ownership of that score. And Yeah, that was absolutely one of the things that stuck with me right away was, seeing her with the mask and the scavenger outfit and wondering who the heck was this person. And the music kind of just takes you away in this large scope of the Star Destroyer and this huge desert planet, and you just kind of feel that innocence of her character. But Andrew, what do you think of John Williams and just the impact that his music has had on Star Wars and on fans?
I think he's pretty good, man. I like John Williams. I like him a lot. He's going places. No, I mean, I would just double down on Jason's comment, right? Like, I remember very vividly racing home every day from school on my little Razor scooter, just pedaling as fast as I could so that I could catch a glimpse of Star Wars on TV. And if I could, I would hide the phone from my parents and call in and vote for it, right? If I could make it early enough. It wasn't until later that I found out that the whole thing is kind of like a sham, and they didn't really like take voting into consideration, but that didn't really stop me from trying it anyways. But yeah, I mean, like Jason was saying, at that time, like, kids weren't like as, tuned into the internet at that point, right? And so this was really the only way that we could get like a glimpse of, a movie that was coming out soon, right? So, I was a fanatic, and growing older and realizing that, oh, this is the same guy every single time who makes all these like really memorable scores, and really getting to appreciate that. But yeah, it all boiled back down to Duel of Fates and what that meant to just like a very impressionable 10-year-old kid at that time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy wrote the theme for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Is that not like the most inspirational music on earth? It's literally about winning the gold and being a champion and like overcoming every obstacle you've ever faced in your life to like kind of ascend this mountaintop of greatness. And that's like John Williams like somehow encapsulated that into a theme song. I'm just like, how do you do that? Star Wars has had such an influence on each of us, clearly, and music plays a role in that. And I think it's really exciting to see people like Ludwig kind of now take on this new spin of that and craft his own unique style that will, maybe there's a kid now who's riding home on a scooter from school to catch The Mandalorian as quickly as he can so he can hear Ludwig's score, right? And that's kind of the beauty of Star Wars, is there's like always a new generation that kind of attaches itself to whatever's happening, right? Whether it's the prequels, whether it's The Mandalorian, whether it's animation like with Rebels or the Clone Wars. And each of us have clearly had a very unique upbringing with it. And that's what makes it special, but somehow it can still bring us all together and connect us in a way that we never expected.
I feel bad for that kid rushing home. His parents only let him watch The Mandalorian one time a day.
I know. It's like he has all weekend to do it. Just let him choose when he wants to watch it, guys. Let him skip school. Personally, I let my kids skip school for Mando, to be honest. It would be worth it. So I'd like to wrap up with just a couple rapid fire questions to kind of go around the table here. But I want to start with each of your favorite Star Wars films. So I will start with Jason. Which Star Wars film has had the biggest impact on you?
I always go back to the original, just Star Wars, New Hope. The cantina scene was just so crazy. Just all those weird aliens, and you meet Han Solo for the first time, and Chewbacca. It was just all just very, very cool to a very young Jason, and it's very hard to be like. And it's the only one that's a standalone movie essentially, but it was just very cool. Everything that was happening in that movie, just all the weirdness of the aliens, like they weren't anything you had seen in other science fiction or fantasy, and I just loved it.
Mm-hmm. Skylar, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
I think my two favorites, when I was a little kid, my absolute favorite was Episode 6. And I think partially because of that, it was because they filmed it in the Bay Area. The redwood trees. Mm-hmm. Is Endor, and I grew up knowing people who like were extras in Episode 6, and it made me so happy. But I'd say as an adult, Rogue One all the way, ride or die.
Absolutely. And Andrew, what about you?
Phantom Menace, no question. I don't know what to tell you. That's the thing about asking someone what their favorite movie is, right? Like of any given series. Is it the best? You know, I'd be hard pressed to convince you that it is the best, but it's certainly the one that had the biggest impact on me at that time and really kind of put me where I am now as far as a Star Wars fan goes. But you know, there's something about that pod race scene, man. Something about Sebulba, something about all those goofy little guys. You know, had a great time.
Yeah, I still really want pod racing to come back. I'm convinced like James Wan really needs to make a pod racing series for Disney Plus because, I mean, the guy did Fast and the Furious. We're just waiting for the pod racing series, and then that will be like the full circle of prequel revival, right? I mean, we just need to bring it back.
That means we get another racer. So
yeah, absolutely.
Let's do this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm all for it.
I'm telling you, Star Wars Squadrons was a test run for the pod racing game. It's all coming together, guys. It's the grand plan.
I can't tell you how many hours I played Star Wars Racer on N64, and then when I lived in Japan for a while, they had like the big arcade you can like sit in, and I just used a lot of, it wasn't quarters, it was yen, but just a lot of money. But yeah, that was like, it's like I am in Star Wars racing. I saw this all in a movie. Now I'm doing it.
So wonderful. So I want to know what each of your favorite characters are. Skylar, I feel like I know yours, but let's start with you anyways.
I mean, I love Cassian. The main crew of Rogue One, they have my whole heart. But I would say besides that, I also really love prequels Obi-Wan and Leia a lot.
You are just ready for all this new Star Wars we're getting if you like Obi-Wan and Cassian.
Absolutely. I'm having a great time.
I love that for you. It's a great time to be a Star Wars fan for sure. Jason, what about you? Which character resonates with you the most?
I'm not sure which one I would like. This one represents me, but the one I like the most, and he has no speaking lines in any of the movies, is IG-88. I don't know why. He just looks cool. And then playing Shadows of the Empire, they're so hard to beat.
Right?
He just jumps around.
It's actually unfair.
Yeah, just the way he's designed, and he just looks super unique for a droid that's also a bounty hunter. And outside of that one, all the weird aliens I love. It's hard to pick one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrew, so I know you just got your newest son Babu Frick in the mail today. So besides him, on your shelf, ready to go. Does Babu want to make an appearance?
Yeah, sure. You want to say anything? Okay, my favorite character. Ashamed to say it in front of little baby Freak here, but it's Salacious Crumb. I mean, I want to know more about him. I want to know what's his story, what's he thinking about, how did he get there, did he survive, what's he doing now, how is he making ends meet, does he have a family, does he have hobbies, does he have interests? There's just so much character, to flesh out, and we just haven't had that opportunity yet. And I think I speak for millions of people. We'd like to see that.
We kind of saw some of his family in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. We're inching our way. But if we're getting like a morsel of information once every 20 years, it's not fast enough for me. And I'd like to know more before I'm.
Do they celebrate Life Day?
Yeah, exactly. There's so many questions out there. I just want to see more of that little guy. And I don't know if it's because I identify with him as a small guy who likes to cackle, but. He's just a funny guy, man. And that's the thing about Star Wars is there's just like so many interesting little like characters in the background that like you can't blink at any moment because you're gonna miss something ridiculous in the background, right? And I guess that is the more serious answer for why I would pick Salacious is in that like there's just such a rich, colorful history and background in these stories, and I feel like we're barely still just like peeling the layers at it.
Well, Andrew, what I will tell you is one, the Star Wars account, I'm sure you saw, had a great appreciation post today for Salacious B. Crumb. It was very unexpected in my timeline, but I took it. And the second thing is the From a Certain Point of View books, which have been coming out to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the films. we're due for Return of the Jedi in 3 years. They're doing Empire Strikes Back this year. A couple more years, you're gonna get your Salacious B Crumb story from that certain point of view book. So I'm sure you'll be ready for that.
I'm excited to see it. Yeah, I'm ready.
So what Star Wars project are you each most excited for? So I know there's a lot. There's like the High Republic coming out. There's Mandalorian animation stuff kind of happening. Is there anything that's really piqued each of your interests?
I mean, I haven't gotten the new Xbox yet because it comes out next month. But then I plan on picking up Squadrons and finally playing that. So I'm really looking forward to that. Just seeing everyone tweet about it and just having so much fun. Outside of the video games, there's so many good Black Series figures coming out, and I just have to like stop looking at them because I want them all. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Cassian series. Finally getting a first look at that when we can, and then Mandalorian season 2 is next week. It's hard to think about anything else besides that right now.
Yeah,
it's almost there.
I would like to see the baby. Skylar, what about you? I know obviously you're excited for Cassian series, but is there anything in addition to that as well that you're just really looking forward to?
I'm very interested in, like, ever since Mandalorian season 1 came out, just all of the TV projects that like they're sort of hinting at or like saying that we're gonna get. It's just so fascinating to me. Like, I remember when the animations came out, and now we're getting like a live action Star Wars TV series, and I think I'm excited for those the most. Any of them that have been announced, I'm excited for them all.
Yeah. So many more to come. I think they're moving towards that direction of more TV series, and I think that's kind of, we're in like a golden age of television almost in some ways. So I think we'll see more of that that we haven't even heard about yet. So very exciting stuff. Yeah. And Andrew, what is on your plate for Star Wars, and what are you most excited to just eat it up?
I mean, yeah, I love that we're living in this period where there's so much coming at us, right? After going, year after year after year with a slow drip of anything Star Wars related. Now we're living in this opportunity where there's so much coming at us, right? I think I don't know if anything's changed, and I could be completely wrong here, but I feel like it wasn't too long ago that I read that J.D. Dillard, the director, was attached to an untitled Star Wars project. And I don't know what's going on there. I know that there's kind of a pause on standalone movies in general for whatever reason. But I just would really, really like to see more of just new voices in the series, and see what they can bring to the table, especially someone as young and still pretty new to the scene as JD. Shout out to JD Dillard, who also directed Sweetheart. If you haven't seen Sweetheart, it absolutely rocks. But yeah, I think if that's still a thing, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. That was reported in Hollywood Reporter, I think, back in February, and I think COVID happened and everybody forgot about it. But yeah, I hope he gets to make whatever he was supposedly making. And we have Taika, we have Deborah Chow, we have Rick Famuyiwa coming back to Mandalorian. So yeah, we're getting there. There's still a lot of work to do to get more voices in the Star Wars universe, but I think we're going towards the right place, which is good. And I think we need to keep going there, because that's Star Wars, and the people who tell Star Wars should reflect the people that love Star Wars, and not the people that love Star Wars aren't just a monolith. They're not like one type of people, right? It's all sorts of people around the world, and that's a special thing. And my final question, this last one, if you could describe Star Wars in terms of an adjective or how it makes you feel, what would you say?
Family. It's not an adjective, but I'd say family.
I would say giddy. It still makes me super excited to see it on screen in any capacity. Definitely giddy, excited.
Hope. I mean, whether it's Luke Skywalker or Rey, it's just always a sense of like, you can always be better, or there's always there are good things coming, and especially right now in this weird year. What a fun one. I think we could all use more of that, and so that's why I love watching. I think Last Jedi, you have that, like you see a broken down version of Luke, but then he like kind of turns and is like, okay, yeah, we can have hope.
Yeah, we are kind of all Luke right now in The Last Jedi, you know, waiting to face down the entire First Order with a laser sword. So thank you all for coming on the show today. This was a lot of fun. It was just so much fun to talk about Star Wars and kind of each of your passions and interests and what went into these incredibly fun designs that so many people were really excited to purchase. But where can our listeners find each of you if they want to follow more of your work? And is there anything that you got going on coming up that you'd like to discuss? So Jason, let's start with you.
You can find me on Twitter at Jason Cause, and then listen to our podcast where Brandon interviews, anybody who's worked on Star Wars, Talking Bay 94. You can find that on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you pretty much find a podcast.
So I run a shop called Super Yaki. You can find us at Super Yaki stuff, superyaki.com. But we're restocking all the leftovers from our Space Wizards collection tomorrow, Friday, which is a few days ago, if you're listening to this right now. But yeah, just go to superyaki.com, and there's still lots of hopefully good stuff from the good people at Talking Bay, from Skylar. And I would just like to say, now that we're all here together, this really has been, the whole collection was like such a dream collaboration. Everyone, was so, generous with their time and with their energy. And I had a lot of fun putting this together with you guys. So thank you guys very much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you guys, taking that leap with me. And, hopefully we can do it again. I'd love to do it. Space Wizards 3, let's do it.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
You can find me at Misnamed Plants on Twitter and Instagram, or if you want to just check out purely my work and no social media content, SkylarVerduzco.com.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, again, thank you all so much. It's great to come together. Until next time, everybody, may the force be with each of you.
Digital magic.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to our conversation with Andrew, Jason, and Skylar. It was such a pleasure to have them on the show. And again, as Andrew mentioned, the Super Yaki Space Wizards line is available again, so go check out some of that stuff. But in the meantime, you can find me at Brad Whipple personally, and you can find the podcast Friends of the Force on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you'd be so kind, please leave a 5-star rating wherever you listen, and consider joining our Patreon to support the show. Thank you to our current patrons, Anna, Cheryl, Christina, Deborah, Donnie, Elegy, Jessica, Marie Claire, Marvin, Neil, Rachel, Sarah, and T. So until next time, everybody, may the force be with you.
Friends of the Force is a proud member of the Star Wars Escape Pods network. To learn more about our sister shows, find us on Twitter at WeAreEscapePods. The Star Wars Escape Pods network, promoting positivity in fandom.